The golden light of the afternoon gradually fades as the darkness begins to spread across the surrounding space. Buckingham Palace, a historic symbol of the United Kingdom, stands firm in the heart of London. A crowd of tourists eagerly takes photos and participates in sightseeing activities, completely unaware that real danger lurks among them. Beneath the cloudy sky, the last rays of the day illuminate the red uniforms of the Royal Guards. And then, a tense and dramatic moment occurs, changing everything in the blink of an eye. James Mitchell, one of the most senior Royal Guards, stands tall, his eyes never leaving the crowd moving around him. He maintains his posture, unwavering, like a solid rock amidst the waves of people. But today, something unusual happens, not just a regular parade, not just an ordinary tourist. And indeed, a criminal has blended into the crowd, hiding his malicious intentions beneath a seemingly normal appearance. Everything changed in an instant, and no one could have predicted it. Will Mitchell be able to handle this threat and protect the safety of everyone while maintaining his serious duty? James Mitchell is not an ordinary man, and he is not a guard simply performing his duties for a paycheck or fame. He has served in the military for over 20 years, participated in 3 major wars, and witnessed countless horrific events. The brutal battlefields have hardened him, sharpening his eyes to detect danger from a distance. He has fought in places that no one could imagine, facing threats not only from guns but from individuals with brutal ideologies and intentions. Today, in his Royal Guard uniform, Mitchell continues to maintain a very serious posture. Under his tall fur hat and the lavish red uniform, he appears as a symbol of loyalty and courage. But behind this formal exterior, Mitchell is a true warrior. A warrior always ready to face any situation life throws at him. Trained in the harshest conditions with street combat training, tough battles in war-torn cities, and fierce skirmishes in high mountain regions, Mitchell has learned an important lesson: never let emotions control him. He knows that only calmness, composure, and precise action can help him overcome any danger. But in this moment, the feeling he experiences is not one of peace like in previous times. He feels a cold breeze, signaling that something is wrong. The tourists around him cannot perceive the tension he is undergoing. They only see a royal guard maintaining his ceremonial dignity. But Mitchell senses a change in the air, an imperceptible shift that is enough to draw his attention. The man is unlike anyone else in the crowd. From his movements, his gaze, to his seemingly casual yet purposeful gestures, Mitchell immediately recognizes that something is amiss. He moves too slowly, not hurried like the other tourists. His steps are carefully calculated, as though he is inspecting key points within the palace grounds, surveying everything from a strategic angle. Though he tries to hide himself, he cannot fool Mitchell. His expensive coat is in stark contrast to his worn-out boots, and Mitchell notices that these boots are not those of an ordinary person, but of individuals from paramilitary groups, trained to survive in harsh conditions. Despite his sophisticated appearance, small details like these reveal his true nature. The man continues to move toward Mitchell, deliberately but with a clear agenda. The people around seem unaware of the danger, but Mitchell begins to feel the rising tension in the air. A wave of unease begins to creep into his mind, a warning sign that something is about to happen. He approaches Mitchell, eyes fixed on him. "Do you believe in all of this?" he says, his voice full of sarcasm. "These ceremonies, these beautiful uniforms, they're all meaningless symbols, aren't they? You're standing here, guarding a system that has collapsed." The words of the criminal are like bullets fired into Mitchell's mind. He doesn't just criticize the system, he implies the very values that Mitchell and the other guards have spent their lives protecting. Though his words are not loud, they carry immense weight. Under the fading sunlight, Mitchell feels his anger rising, but he does not let it overtake his mind. He knows this is not the time to lose his composure. "Where do you stand in this world?" the criminal continues. "It's all a deception. Everything is falling apart. And you, the protectors, are hiding this decay. Can't you see it?" Mitchell remains silent, saying nothing. He doesn't need to respond, because the criminal's words are simply part of his strategy to test Mitchell's patience and intellect. He has faced extremists and filled with hatred before. Past confrontations have prepared him for this moment. The criminal approaches even closer, his breath audible. He looks at Mitchell's medals, and a flicker of recognition appears in his eyes. This is not a typical criminal. This is someone with a clear purpose. But Mitchell, with all his composure and resolve, stands firm, not letting the criminal's words rattle him. As the criminal moves closer, Mitchell can feel the change in the atmosphere. Gone are the cheerful voices of the tourists, replaced by a silence as if a fire has died down. In these few fleeting seconds, Everything seems to pause, time stretching, and all eyes focus on the confrontation between the two men. The criminal moves deliberately, circling around Mitchell, slowly, like a predator hunting its prey. Every move he makes is calculated, as if he knows exactly what to do to create maximum impact. Mitchell maintains his posture, but every one of his senses is on high alert, ready for the worst-case scenario. The criminal begins to issue sharp critiques of the values Mitchell is guarding, attacking a society he deems decayed. "And you?" the criminal sneers, "standing here in this uniform, do you realize the meaninglessness of what you are protecting?" His taunting tone challenges Mitchell's endurance. Mitchell remains silent. Each word from the criminal is like a stone thrown into a lake, sending ripples through Mitchell's mind, but he knows there is no room for emotions in this moment. With every passing second, Mitchell feels the situation escalate. This is no longer just a confrontation, but a real-life threat. Suddenly, a small but decisive shift occurs. The criminal begins to move his hand towards his coat pocket, in a gesture that appears casual. But to Mitchell, a man who has fought in countless brutal battles, every action is a clue. He senses the criminal's body shift, a movement of intent. The criminal is drawing a weapon. In that moment, Mitchell no longer waits. He reacts instantly. What seemed like an eternity is reduced to the blink of an eye. Mitchell's quick decision is what changes the course of the situation. With flawless precision, Mitchell swiftly intercepts the criminal's arm, halting the motion that could have ended in disaster. There is no gunshot, no struggle, just a display of skill and discipline. The gun is gradually taken from the criminal's hand, disarmed without causing any harm. Mitchell's movements flow like a dancer, yet inside is the full measure of caution and expertise honed through thousands of hours of training. The surrounding crowd hardly has time to notice the change. They stand frozen, not daring to breathe, as Mitchell completely takes control of the situation. The criminal stands still, his hands empty. He stares at Mitchell with a look of deep resentment. He cannot understand how this defeat came so quickly, how he was caught off guard. His rage begins to transform into disbelief, and then to panic. Mitchell remains upright, completely composed. He says nothing, only continuing with the disarmament, as if it were a routine task. Every part of the weapon is carefully dismantled, and his gaze never wavers from the criminal. Every movement is precise, flawless, with no room for error. The criminal begins to fully realize his situation. His face pales as his anger is replaced with anxiety. He looks at his hands, where the gun once was, now gone. His eyes turn vacant. No more self-assurance, no more mocking. His rhetoric about dominance seems to fade completely. "What? No, how?" He stammers, but he cannot finish his sentence. Everything has changed. Mitchell does not allow the criminal any chance to react further. He calmly steps toward him, towering over him, like a soldier assessing an opponent, not with his eyes, but with his every action, every motion. Mitchell knows that it is not just the weapon that has been taken, but the criminal's opportunity to carry out his sinister plot. "We're done here," Mitchell says, his voice calm but firm. The criminal, now, has nothing left to say. As the police and rapid response teams arrive, the criminal has no choice but to accept his defeat. The crowd begins to murmur, and many people breathe a sigh of relief. However, Mitchell remains in his position. He holds his posture steady, just like all the other royal guards, never letting a moment of unease show. Mitchell's patience and discipline have allowed him to navigate this tense situation without escalating it into danger. But for the criminal, this is a confrontation he will never forget. His failure not only comes from being disarmed, but also from the realization that he misjudged someone with the skill and decisiveness of Mitchell. The police arrest the criminal and take him away. Things seem to return to normal, but for Mitchell and those who witnessed the event, they will never forget that moment. A moment of calm and precise action that saved not just one life, but the safety of many. As the incident concludes, Mitchell continues his duty without a single change in his demeanor. But inside, a quiet sense of pride swells within him. He is not just a protector. He is a true warrior. A warrior who not only defends life, but also upholds the values for which he and his comrades have fought.